All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are taking a deep dive into anthroposophy.
Ooh, exciting.
But, and here's the twist, we're not just going to skim the surface.
Right.
We're diving deep into the practical, everyday stuff.
I like it.
How you can actually use this philosophy to, level up your life.
That's a great way to put it.
So think of it like we're, I don't know, upgrading your mental operating system.
I love that analogy, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because so many people think of anthroposophy as this, really kind of esoteric, mystical thing.
Right.
But, what I find so fascinating about it is how grounded it is.
Yeah.
It's really about taking action. And, Steiner, the founder of anthroposophy, he believed that there's a path to spiritual growth hidden in plain sight.
Ooh.
Even in the most ordinary things we do every day.
Okay, so less about levitating and more about how to really make the most of our everyday lives.
Exactly. And today we're going to be looking at some of Steiner's lectures that give us a sort of toolkit for that. So we're talking about practical training and thought, techniques for overcoming nervousness, even understanding relationships through the lens of karma.
Okay.
We've got practical training and thought, overcoming nervousness, facing karma, and the 4 temperaments all on deck for today.
Whoa, that's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
But let's start with, I think, something that we can all relate to, which is wanting to think more clearly and effectively.
Right.
So what is this whole idea of practical training in thought?
So Steiner, he had this really kind of radical idea that the world is literally built by thought. And if we can understand those thoughts, we can gain a much deeper understanding of, ourselves and the world around us. And so it's almost like we can rethink reality.
Okay, so like rethinking our assumptions about how the world works.
Exactly.
That's pretty powerful, but how do we actually do that? Like, how do we train our thinking to be more, practical?
Well, he gives some pretty interesting exercise. One that might surprise you is carefully observing the weather every day.
Interesting.
Not to become a meteorologist or anything like that, but to really attune your thinking to how things change and connect in nature.
Okay, so it's not about predicting the rain.
Yeah.
It's about really noticing the subtle details, the cloud formations, the wind, the way the light changes, all of that.
Yes. And by, making those detailed observations and comparing them over time, you start to sharpen your awareness of those connections, those hidden connections.
Right.
And that can then translate to other areas of life as well.
So it's like a mental workout for noticing patterns and understanding cause and effect.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
I see. So we're building that mental muscle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this leads to another really crucial point that Steiner makes, which is that we have to be careful not to get trapped in our own mental bubbles,
Right, like where we think our assumptions are actually reality.
Exactly, yeah.
And I think we've all been there. But how do we avoid that trap?
Well, Steiner, he had this technique that he called thinking backwards.
Thinking backwards.
Yeah, so imagine, you have a conflict with somebody.
Right.
Instead of just reacting,
Yeah.
you mentally rewind the situation,
Right.
step by step, back to its potential root cause.
Okay, interesting. So it's like being a detective of your own thoughts and actions instead of just assuming you know what happened.
Exactly. And often, you realize that your initial assumptions were off.
Oh, yeah.
And by consistently, correcting those internal models, you align your thinking more closely to how reality actually works.
I like that.
And that can be incredibly helpful for making better decisions.
So it sounds like this thinking backward could be useful for everything from, work problems to relationships.
Absolutely. And it ties into another really key principle, patience in decision-making.
Interesting.
Steiner, he believed that instead of rushing to a conclusion, we should let possibilities kind of work within us for a while,
Let them simmer a little bit.
Exactly, letting them simmer.
Yeah.
And that seems counterintuitive, in our fast-paced world.
Right, because aren't we supposed to be decisive and quick on our feet and all of that?
Right, exactly. But here's the thing, by allowing those different perspectives to interact and mature within us, we actually become more decisive in the long run.
Okay.
Because our final choice, it emerges from a deeper understanding.
It's like giving our unconscious mind time to process and reveal the best path forward.
Yeah, exactly.
But doesn't that risk us becoming paralyzed by indecision?
Not necessarily. It's more about cultivating a conscious awareness of the decision-making process.
Right.
Recognizing that sometimes the best action is to pause and reflect rather than just charge ahead impulsively.
Okay.
And this actually leads to a broader point about developing a more holistic way of thinking and feeling, which is, really what anthroposophy is all about.
So it's not just logic, it's also intuition. It's that ability to, connect to something deeper.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. But let's shift gears a bit here, because another thing that I think a lot of people struggle with is nervousness.
Right.
Just that everyday anxiety that can really drain us.
Yeah.
So what did Steiner have to say about overcoming that?
This is where things get really intriguing.
Okay.
Steiner observed that the stresses of modern life, especially things like, cramming for exams, actually weaken what he called the etheric body.
Okay, wait, the etheric body. Can you explain that a little bit for those of us who, maybe aren't as familiar with anthroposophy?
Of course. So think of it as this kind of subtle energy field that underlies and vitalizes our physical body. Okay. It's like, the life force that keeps us going. But it's more delicate than we realize.
Right.
And it can be depleted by, stress and overexertion.
So it's like our etheric body is running low on fuel when we're feeling burnt out or anxious or those sorts of things.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Okay.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Steiner suggests this surprisingly simple technique for strengthening this etheric body and overcoming nervousness.
All right. I'm ready.
It's placing objects mindfully.
What? Like tidying up?
Well, there's a little more to it than that.
Okay.
It's about bringing full consciousness to the act of placing an object. So as you put something down, you consciously think, I am placing this here.
Okay.
And you actually visualize the object and its surroundings in detail.
So it's like infusing that action with intention.
Exactly.
Rather than just, doing it on autopilot.
Exactly. And while it might seem trivial, Steiner believed that the seemingly small act, practiced consistently, can have a significant impact on strengthening the etheric body.
Wow. Okay, I'm already trying to do it with my coffee cup right now.
That's amazing, right?
Yeah. It's really interesting how just that little shift in awareness can make it feel so different.
Yeah.
But I have to ask, how does placing objects mindfully actually affect the etheric body? It just seems like such a leap.
That's a great question, and it ties back to this core principle in anthroposophy.
Okay.
The idea that our thoughts and actions are interconnected with these subtler forces that shape our reality. And so by bringing conscious intention to even the smallest actions, we're essentially strengthening our connection to that life force, that etheric body. And that, in turn, can help us overcome nervousness and other challenges.
Okay, so it's not just the physical act itself, but the mental and spiritual energy we're bringing to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this concept of the interconnectedness of thought, action, and the etheric body, it also relates to another observation that Steiner made.
Okay.
He noticed that people who are prone to nervousness, they often exhibit this kind of disconnect between their thoughts and actions.
You mean like those people who fidget or, make little involuntary movements before they start a task?
Exactly. Yeah. And Steiner saw this as a sign of a weakened etheric body losing control of the physical body.
Interesting.
And so to strengthen that connection, he proposed this rather surprising exercise.
Okay.
Practicing writing in a completely different style than you normally use.
So, if I'm a cursive writer, I should try printing or even switch hands. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. It sounds challenging, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
But that's part of the point.
Okay.
By forcing yourself out of your habitual patterns, you bring more conscious awareness to the act of writing, which in turn strengthens the etheric body's control and creates this greater sense of harmony between your inner world and your outer actions.
Whoa, I never thought of, writing as a way to, work out my etheric body.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, huh?
But I'm definitely intrigued. What other unusual techniques did he suggest for overcoming nervousness?
He recommended practicing simple things in reverse.
Oh, okay.
Like walking backward or even reading aloud from the end of a sentence.
That sounds a little bit like those brain training games that you see advertised everywhere.
It does, but the underlying principle is about challenging those ingrained habits, and strengthening the etheric body's ability to control your actions.
Okay.
And this ties into another important aspect of anthroposophy, which is the cultivation of willpower.
Oh, willpower.
Yeah.
That's something I think we could all use a little bit more of.
Yeah, right.
So what did Steiner have to say about that?
Well, he believed that suppressing those little, comfort-driven desires,
Yeah.
those impulses to, indulge in things that aren't necessarily good for us,
Yeah.
that can actually help strengthen our willpower.
Okay.
And this, in turn, strengthens what he called the eye's control over the astral body, which is the realm of emotions and desires.
Right. So it's not about denying ourselves all pleasure, but about making conscious choices that support our well-being, I guess, overall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for example, if you have a habit of snacking late at night, you
Yeah.
know, you could choose to abstain, not because you're depriving yourself,
Right.
but because you're consciously exercising your willpower and reducing those cravings over time.
Yeah, it's like flexing that self-discipline muscle.
Exactly.
But isn't denying ourselves pleasure like counterintuitive to happiness? Don't we need some level of, indulgence to really enjoy life?
That's a great point. And Steiner wasn't advocating for, a life of pure austerity. It's more about finding that balance between indulging our desires and consciously choosing to restrain them, when it serves our higher purpose.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
It's about recognizing that true happiness comes not from, constantly chasing fleeting pleasures, but from developing that inner strength and self-mastery to choose what truly nourishes us.
It's about being in the driver's seat of our own lives.
Exactly.
Rather than being driven by our impulses.
Yeah.
And that actually brings us to another interesting question, which is, how do we cultivate that willpower in children?
Oh, that's a great question.
Because, telling them no all the time doesn't always seem to work, right?
Right. And this is where Steiner's approach takes a really interesting turn.
Okay.
He believed that constantly saying no to children, it can actually be counterproductive. And instead, he emphasized the power of teaching by example.
So it's more about, showing them how to manage their impulses and make healthy choices.
Exactly.
Rather than just, imposing restrictions.
Yeah. And children are incredibly perceptive.
Right.
And they often learn more from what they observe than from what they're told.
That's a good point.
So for example, if you want to teach your child to, limit their sweets. Right.
You could model that behavior yourself, showing them that you enjoy treats in moderation.
That's such a subtle but powerful shift.
It is.
It's about embodying those qualities rather than just, lecturing about it.
And this reflects a core belief in anthroposophy.
Okay.
That we are constantly shaping and influencing each other through our thoughts, feelings, and actions.
Yeah.
It's a call to cultivate self-awareness, not just for our own benefit, but for the positive impact it can have on those around us.
It's about recognizing that our personal growth is interconnected with the well-being of others.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a beautiful concept. But before we dive into the world of karma and relationships, I think let's pause for a moment and just let all of this sink in.
Okay.
What's standing out to you so far? What's sparking your curiosity?
I think for me, what's really striking is just how these seemingly simple practices, like mindful placement or thinking backward,
can have such a profound impact on our lives.
Yeah.
And this brings us to another aspect of anthroposophy that often gets misunderstood, which is this concept of karma.
Yeah, karma can be a tricky one.
It can.
Some people see it as like this cosmic punishment system.
Right.
And others see it as this very vague idea of good vibes attracting good vibes. So what's Steiner's take on all of this?
So Steiner's view is both insightful and potentially comforting.
Okay.
He suggests that our suffering often stems from shortcomings that we've carried over from previous lifetimes. It's we're working through unfinished business on a soul level.
So it's not about being punished for past misdeeds, but more about having opportunities to learn and grow from those experiences.
Exactly.
Okay.
And here's where Steiner's view gets really interesting.
Okay.
He reframes suffering not as a punishment, but as a choice made by a wiser being within us. A part of ourselves that sees the bigger picture and understands what we need to evolve.
So it's on some level, we're choosing these challenges, even if we don't, consciously realize it.
Yeah, that's the idea.
But how do we reconcile that with the very real pain and hardship that people experience?
Right.
I mean, it's hard to see suffering as a choice when you're going through something truly difficult.
That's a really valid point.
Yeah.
And it's important to acknowledge that suffering can feel incredibly unfair and overwhelming.
Right.
And Steiner isn't suggesting that we should just dismiss or minimize those feelings.
Okay.
But he does offer a different perspective, that even in the midst of our struggles, there's an opportunity for growth and transformation. It's about recognizing that we have that inner strength to move through those challenges and emerge stronger on the other side.
That's a powerful shift in perspective.
It is.
It's like taking ownership of our karmic journey, recognizing that even our difficulties can have a purpose.
Exactly. And this ties into another really intriguing aspect of Steiner's view on karma, which is his perspective on joy and happiness. So he saw them not as rewards that we earn, but as gifts, as grace bestowed upon us by the divine.
So we should savor those moments of, joy and gratitude.
Yes.
Without feeling like we have to earn them.
Exactly.
Or that we somehow deserve them.
Exactly. And this understanding helps us avoid the trap of constantly chasing pleasure.
Right.
Which can ultimately lead to emptiness and dissatisfaction.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's about recognizing those moments of joy as these precious gifts, appreciating them fully, and allowing them to nourish us without clinging to them or trying to force them to last.
Right. It's about finding that contentment in the present moment rather than constantly striving for something more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and this brings us back to that idea of developing a broader perspective.
Yes.
Which seems to be like a recurring theme in Anthroposophy.
It is. And this understanding of both suffering and joy as part of this larger karmic process, it encourages us to move beyond that narrow, ego-centered view of life and embrace a more expansive perspective, recognizing that we're all part of this much grander story.
Right. A cosmic tapestry woven together through, lifetimes of experience.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's almost like we're all characters in a grand play.
Right.
Each playing our part in the unfolding of this larger narrative.
And speaking of characters, Steiner's insights on karma also shed light on our relationships.
Okay, how so?
So he suggests that the people we encounter in life are also part of our karmic journey. Often reflecting connections and debts from past lives.
So it's like we're drawn to certain people for a reason, even if we don't consciously understand why at the time.
That's the idea. And he made some fascinating observations about the timing of these encounters.
Oh, really?
He noticed a pattern where the people we meet around the middle part of our lives, our 30s, they often have a karmic connection to our early childhood in a previous life.
Oh, wow. So someone we meet and form a bond with in our 30s might have been a significant figure in our early childhood in a past life.
Yeah. Maybe even a parent or caregiver.
That's mind-blowing.
It is. And conversely, the people who were prominent in our early childhood in this life, like our parents, they often have a karmic connection to around our 30th year in a previous life. It's like those relationships are mirrored across lifetimes.
That's incredible. It's like those connections are, woven together across time, creating this continuity of experience that extends beyond a single lifetime.
Exactly. And Steiner also suggests that in the later part of life, we often encounter souls with whom new karmic connections are being formed, relationships that will continue to unfold in future lifetimes.
So it's like we're planting seeds for future growth and connection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful reminder that life is this continuous journey, and our relationships play such a vital role. And this brings us to another fascinating aspect of Anthroposophy, one that's a bit more down to earth, but equally profound.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
The 4 temperaments.
Ooh, temperaments.
So Steiner had some really insightful observations about how our temperament, that fundamental coloring of our personality, it shapes our experiences and interactions.
Yeah, temperaments are something we can all relate to.
Right.
I mean, we all know people who are naturally more outgoing and energetic, while others are more, introspective and reserved.
Exactly.
So what's Steiner's take on temperament?
Well, Steiner saw temperament as this blending of our eternal self, brought from past lives, and the physical traits we inherit from our ancestors.
So it's not just nature or nurture, it's a dynamic interplay of both.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're shaped by our past experiences, but also by our genetic inheritance.
Right. And Steiner linked the four temperaments to the predominance of one of the four bodies in the human constitution.
Okay.
So the physical body, the etheric body, the astral body, and the I, or ego.
Okay, so just for those of us who need a refresher, the physical body is obviously our material form.
Right.
The etheric body is that life force.
Yep.
The astral body is the realm of emotions and desires.
Exactly.
And the I is our core identity, our sense of self.
A perfect summary.
Okay.
And so when the I is dominant, we have the choleric temperament.
The choleric, okay.
And these individuals are typically strong-willed, driven, and sometimes even aggressive.
Right.
As the ego seeks to assert its will in the world.
Speaking of cholerics, I remember once I completely misjudged a colleague.
Oh, really?
As being like arrogant and pushy. And it turned out he was just a classic choleric.
Oh.
Just full of energy and needing to be in charge.
Right.
It was a good lesson in not jumping to conclusions about people's personalities.
That's a great example. And it highlights how understanding temperament can help us navigate our interactions more effectively.
Yeah, for sure.
And, Steiner linked the ego to the blood system.
Okay.
So in cholerics, you often see that forcefulness expressed in their physical energy and drive.
Interesting.
Now, with the sanguine temperament, they always seem so lively and engaging.
Yeah, they do.
It's like their energy is contagious.
It is.
So in sanguines, the astral body, the realm of emotions and sensations, is dominant.
Okay.
And this gives them that natural vibrancy and responsiveness to the world. They're easily excited, quick-witted, and constantly seeking new experiences.
Oh, yeah.
It's like their nervous system is always buzzing with activity.
Steiner linked the astral body to the nervous system, right?
Yes.
So in sanguines, you see that quickness and changeability reflected in their movements and expressions.
Exactly. And then we have the phlegmatics.
Oh, yeah, the phlegmatics.
And they often strike me as like calm and collected, even a bit reserved. It's like they have this inner peace that the rest of us are striving for.
They do seem to have a certain, tranquility about them.
Right.
What makes them tick?
So in phlegmatics, the etheric body, which governs growth and metabolism, it's dominant.
Okay.
And this gives them a sense of inner calm and stability.
Right.
They're not easily ruffled.
Right.
And they tend to be more introspective, focused on their internal world.
So they're more inwardly focused,
Yeah.
content with a slower pace of life.
Exactly. And Steiner linked the etheric body to the glandular system,
Right.
which regulates so many of our internal processes.
Yeah.
So in phlegmatics, you see that inner stability reflected in their even-keeled demeanor.
Gotcha.
And finally, we have the melancholics.
Yes, melancholics.
They often seem burdened by this sense of sadness or heaviness.
Right, like they're carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in melancholics, the physical body, the most physical and tangible of the four bodies, is dominant.
Okay.
And this can create a sense of being overwhelmed by the material world, leading to a tendency towards introspection, sadness, and a feeling of disconnect from the world.
So it's like they're weighed down by their physical nature.
Yeah.
That must be a difficult temperament to navigate.
It can be, yeah.
Yeah.
And Steiner, he saw this as a consequence of the physical body resisting the influence of the other, more subtle bodies.
Interesting.
And it creates this kind of inner friction and struggle.
Right. Okay. So then this makes me wonder, how did Steiner suggest that we approach these different temperaments, particularly in children?
Yeah.
Because it seems like it would be so crucial to understand these tendencies early on.
Yeah, and he emphasized that in education, we should work with the child's temperament, not against it.
Okay.
He warned against trying to force children into a mold that doesn't fit their natural inclinations.
Yeah. So it's about recognizing and honoring their unique individuality.
Exactly.
Meeting them where they are.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to make them into something they're not.
Exactly. So for sanguines, who thrive on novelty and stimulation, Steiner suggested making learning as engaging and exciting as possible.
Okay, so ditch the dry lectures and the textbook drills.
Right.
Bring on the hands-on activities and creative exploration.
Exactly. And for cholerics.
All right, for the choleric.
Who have that strong will and a need for control.
Right.
He emphasized the importance of establishing really clear and consistent boundaries and expectations.
So they need to know the rules of the game.
Yeah.
But also feel respected and heard.
Right.
It's about finding that balance between structure and autonomy.
Exactly. It's about providing a structure that allows them to channel their energy and drive in constructive ways, while also giving them opportunities to develop self-discipline and learn to cooperate with others. And then what about melancholics?
Yeah, the melancholics, how do you create a supportive environment for a child who's prone to, you know, sadness and withdrawal?
So this is where Steiner's approach gets really interesting.
Okay.
He suggested that redirecting the melancholics' focus on pain outwards by exposing them to legitimate suffering in the world
Okay.
could actually foster compassion and a sense of connection to something larger than themselves.
That's fascinating. So it's not about shielding them from the harsh realities of the world,
Right.
but about helping them channel their sensitivity and empathy
Yeah.
in a way that's meaningful and empowering.
Exactly. And it's not about, burdening the child with more sadness, but about helping them see that suffering is this universal experience.
Right.
And that their own pain can be a source of understanding and connection to others.
Yeah, it's about turning that inward focus outward, transforming it into a force for good. That's beautiful.
And for phlegmatics, who can sometimes get, stuck in a rut or lack motivation.
Yeah.
He recommended surrounding them with enthusiastic peers and a wide variety of interest, allowing those passions to kind of rub off on them.
Okay, so it's less about pushing them.
Yeah.
And more about creating this, contagious atmosphere of learning and discovery.
Exactly.
Surrounding them with people and activities that, spark their curiosity and ignite their passions.
Yeah, exactly. Steiner believed that each temperament has its own unique strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
And that the goal of education is to guide those tendencies towards a healthy expression.
So it's about nurturing their individual potential.
Yeah.
While also helping them develop, the skills and self-awareness to navigate the challenges that their temperament might present.
Exactly.
And this kind of brings us back to this idea of self-development.
It does.
Because Steiner believed that even as adults, we can apply these insights about temperament to our own lives.
Yes.
Working with our natural tendencies to foster personal growth.
Yeah, it's not about trying to change our fundamental nature, but about understanding it and finding ways to express it in a more balanced and fulfilling way.
So, if I'm a sanguine, I can learn to, manage my impulsivity and channel my energy more effectively rather than trying to become a phlegmatic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, for example, sanguines can learn to manage their impulsivity by consciously creating structure and routines.
Okay.
While cholerics can cultivate patience and flexibility by practicing activities that require surrender and going with the flow.
And what about melancholics? How can they overcome that tendency towards sadness and withdrawal?
So Steiner suggested that melancholics can find solace and purpose by engaging in activities that channel their empathy and compassion, such as caring for others or pursuing creative endeavors that express their deep inner world.
So it's about finding healthy outlets for that intensity of feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Turning it into a source of strength and inspiration.
And for phlegmatics, who can sometimes get stuck in a rut, Steiner recommended seeking out, novel experiences and engaging with people who challenge them to step outside their comfort zones.
Exactly. It's like, a gentle nudge to expand their horizons.
Right.
Embrace the richness of life.
Yeah, trying new things, meeting new people, shaking things up a bit.
Exactly. The key takeaway here is that by understanding our temperament, we can develop strategies and practices that support our well-being and personal growth.
So it's about becoming the best versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
Embracing our unique strengths and working with our weaknesses in a compassionate and mindful way.
Absolutely. It's like, we're all works in progress, constantly evolving and becoming more fully ourselves.
Yeah.
And Anthroposophy, it gives us these amazing tools to navigate that journey with more awareness and purpose.
It's a philosophy that really empowers us to live more consciously, compassionately, and courageously. Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what we've covered so far.
Okay.
What insights resonate most strongly with you? What's sparking your curiosity?
Well, I think what's so remarkable is how Steiner weaves together these seemingly disparate threads.
Right.
Practical thinking, overcoming nervousness, understanding karma, the nuances of temperament.
Right.
It's like he's offering us this roadmap for navigating the complexities of life.
Yeah.
and becoming more conscious and empowered individuals.
It's not just a philosophy that you read about.
Right.
It's something you can actually put into practice, experiment with, and make a part of your daily life.
And, when we connect this to the bigger picture, I think Steiner's work offers a powerful antidote to the anxieties and uncertainties of modern life. By understanding our place in the grand scheme of things, recognizing the influence of karma, and working with the power of our unique temperament, we can cultivate a sense of purpose, resilience, and inner peace.
It's about taking ownership of our lives.
Yeah.
Not just reacting to circumstances, but actively shaping our experiences.
Right.
And becoming like the architects of our own destinies.
Steiner also reminds us that we're not alone on this journey. Our interactions with others, even those that are challenging or painful, there are opportunities for learning, growth, and karmic resolution.
It's a beautiful reminder that even in our most difficult moments, there's this potential for transformation and connection.
Yeah.
It's like those challenges are actually guiding us towards a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
Anthroposophy, it invites us to embrace the more expansive view of ourselves and the world, recognizing the interconnectedness of all things and the profound potential for growth that exists within each of us.
It's a philosophy that truly empowers us to live more consciously, compassionately, and courageously.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into anthroposophy, I encourage you to reflect on which of these insights resonates most strongly with you. Perhaps it's the power of mindful thinking, or the idea of working with your temperament, or the understanding that even suffering can be a path to growth.
Whatever sparks your curiosity, I invite you to explore anthroposophy further and see what treasures you uncover. Who knows what transformative insights await?
Until next time, keep diving deep.
It's really fascinating how anthroposophy it touches on so many different aspects of life. From practical thinking, all the way to relationships, and even how we understand our own personalities. It's like this incredible toolbox for self-discovery and growth.
What I find so remarkable is how Steiner, he weaves all these threads together, practical thinking, overcoming nervousness, understanding karma, the nuances of temperament, into this really coherent picture of self-development.
It's like he's giving us a roadmap.
Yeah, it is. It's like a roadmap.
For navigating the complexities of life.
Exactly.
And becoming more conscious and empowered.
And it's not just something you read about, it's something you actually put into practice. Experiment with. Make a part of your everyday life.
It's a lived philosophy, not just, an intellectual exercise.
Exactly. And, I think when we connect all of this to the bigger picture, Steiner's work, it offers this really powerful antidote to the anxieties and uncertainties of modern life,
Right, because we're not just at the mercy of, circumstance. We have agency. We can choose how we respond.
Exactly. And by understanding, our place in the grand scheme of things, recognizing the influence of karma and working with the power of our unique temperament, we can cultivate a sense of purpose, resilience, and inner peace.
It's about taking ownership of our lives.
Yeah, it is.
Not just reacting to circumstances, but actively shaping our experiences and becoming, the architects of our own destinies.
Exactly. And Steiner also reminds us that we're not alone in this journey. Our interactions with others, even those that are challenging, painful, they're all opportunities for learning and growth, karmic resolution.
It's a beautiful reminder that even in those difficult moments, there's this potential for transformation, connection.
It's like those challenges, they're actually guiding us towards a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
I love that. And anthroposophy really does, I think, invite us to embrace that more expansive view of ourselves in the world.
It does,
recognizing the interconnectedness of all things. And the profound potential for growth that exists within each of us.
It's a philosophy that really empowers us.
It does.
To live more consciously, compassionately, and courageously.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into anthroposophy, I really encourage you to, reflect on which of these insights has resonated most strongly with you.
Maybe it's, the power of mindful thinking. Or the idea of working with your temperament. Or the understanding that even suffering can be a path to growth.
whatever sparks your curiosity, I invite you to explore anthroposophy further.
Right.
See what treasures you uncover.
Who knows what transformative insights await.
Until next time, keep diving deep.
See you then.